pocket party.
And we're back, everybody. It's your host, Darren Carter, the party starter. Yeah, baby. I have all this energy. I've been up early. I went running around the block, actually walking up hills, drinking black coffee, getting the sunshine in my eyes, I guess, even though I was wearing sunglasses. Anyways, I'm going to call Mike Black right now. Mike Black. And let's see if his energy is up a little bit. I talked to him about 12 minutes ago, and he was just waking up.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, there he is, Mr. Michael Black. How are you, buddy?
Good. How's it going?
Dude, you sound night and day. I don't know how much coffee you've drinking in the last 12 minutes, but you are awake and alive, and you must have taken.
That's why they call me Mr. Showbiz.
Mr. Showbiz. He pulled
when the camera starts rolling.
Exactly. He's on lights, camera, Mike Black.
It all pulls together.
It's funny.
Like Elvis. His voice never failed him. Right to the very end.
It's true, dude. It's true. Like and we'll get into more Elvis. That's all I've been thinking about it. Of course we will, Darren. We've moved on from Little House on the Prairie.
Can I tell you now, real quick, my mom may be the biggest Elvis fan in the world, and now she's just in love with your podcast because it's become the all Elvis all the time podcast.
I know. It's funny.
2 weeks ago, she didn't know what a podcast was. Now she's like telling her friends, are you listening to the Party Starters podcast? It's called The Pocket Party. You're going to need to get an app.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but you have to get one to do it.
Yeah, it's on your phoning machine. I'm sure. I don't want her to think I'm making fun of her. We love you, Mrs. Black.
It costs 35,000 Bitcoin, whatever those are.
We're gonna do a deep dive on Elvis Presley. We've moved on from Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons, and now we're deep.
My son is giving me a discount of 35,000 Bitcoin per episode.
I know.
He'll download for me.
It's funny because I didn't know the hardest part for me about doing like social media, YouTube, podcasting, the whole thing is the description or the title, which shouldn't be the hardest thing. But I'm just like, after you've done all the work, that's at the finish line where you're like, finally, it's up. And so I didn't know what to name episode, I think 240, so all I wrote was like Elvis.
Right, yeah. So what more can you do
with Mike Black? And then the next week I did another one with the I called him an Elvis Presley historian. It's Stevie D, Steve Dupin. I don't know if you know Stevie D, but comic, author, producer, and I mean for 30 years this guy's been reading books, watching documentaries. He's the kind of guy he would run into Jerry Schilling from the Memphis Mafia at a coffee bean and recognize him and be like, "Excuse me, you're Jerry Schilling." I mean that kind of thing where the guy was like, "Well, thank you." Like he was excited to get so anyways same thing. I called that podcast Elvis, like more Elvis.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to call it. It's like,
well, yeah. I mean, we could very eastly turn this one into. I was at the Comedy Store last night and. Jack Knight, a young comic, had passed away, so people were in a weird mood. But God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
Everything, but it was just you could feel it through the building because it's one of our own, and it's we all kind of pull together. We probably said 5 sentences to each other the whole time. I was there, but it's still, you see how it affects your friends and like comics that you really respect are like crying.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to go through because it just is what it is. But while we were there, we got on the topic of like, what's the worst gig you've ever done? Do you remember the worst one you've ever done? Like, can you name a specific one that you're like, that was definitely it?
Well, it's funny because I have one that comes to mind, but usually when I think about that, I usually put it out of my mind. Where I'm like, I don't want to think about that anymore. And then so when you get on like,
but to other comics, it's kind of funny.
That is true. You're right. It is true. It is true.
And I think honestly, to people. the event itself, of course, it was not funny, but hearing the story of what happened,
Yeah.
it can be funny. But I got.
I'm sorry. Can I just tell you this real quick? And I don't even know if it's
Yeah,
not. I don't even think it's a funny story. I just, when you said that, I totally put this out of my mind because I hadn't thought about it in years. I basically got paid $300 way before I was ready. I'd probably been doing comedy for a year, and I performed at a Christmas party at a car dealership in the Bay Area.
And that's already amazing.
Yeah, and it's like, I think I only had, the only thing that made them laugh was my car jokes, because I had some car jokes back then.
Because that's all they're doing. They're 24/7 car people.
Exactly. Like, that's the only, and I probably, like I said, I hadn't been doing comedy that long, and maybe a year and a half. And at the time, I drove a Yugo. And which I don't know, people probably don't know what
to
those
them
are.
must have been hilarious.
Yeah, that was already hilarious, and it wasn't even like, like those jokes were so popular back then. They were called like hack jokes, like
right.
Jay Leno would be, "Hey, you hear about the Yugo that has rear window defrosters? That way you can keep your hands warm while you're pushing it." Or they'd say like,
"I remember in Dragnet. You remember that movie with Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah."
They wreck their normal car, and so to punish them, they give them the undercover Yugo, but it's a Yugoslavian import car.
Oh my gosh!
And it was just awful.
Yeah, so like I would tell those kind of jokes, like I mean, I would tell my real story about how I really did buy a Yugo, and the insurance was higher than the car payments, and
right,
there was no glove compartment, and I mean, just real stories, like I remember the guy go, there's pluses and minuses with the Yugo, but I would just tell them like the true story, like how it's easy to park, it's easy to push, because I literally had to push it all the time because it wouldn't, for some reason it would die a lot, and then you'd have to like. It was a stick shift, so you'd push it, and then it would just start, and it was super scary when you're in these, in
pop the clutch.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd be on those hills in San Francisco, and dude, one time it rolled backwards, and I was like, oh my god. So it was just like the freakiest thing, and so I remember telling those jokes. I'd be like. Like I go, one of the jokes is I'd be like, one time I hit a deer, and the deer was like, "Damn, you need to get some power." And I'd leap around the stage like a deer, kind of. And that's the only thing that did well was my Yugo jokes. Everything else was in the tank. And
that's hilarious.
And I remember just freaking out, like they weren't laughing, and I was supposed to do.
How long did you have to do?
About a half hour. I was supposed to do about a half hour.
When you're just starting, that is a rough amount of time.
It was like the worst, man, and all I could think of to do was this lady with these really large bosoms, or whatever you would say, bosom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like the
breasts.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's legal.
She got up and like was afraid I was going to roast her or whatever, so she ran right in front of the stage, and her giant. We're going bong, 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 bong. And I think I made the sound effects for it or whatever, which is totally inappropriate, but it did get a laugh. And
that was, back then, it was not a big deal.
Yeah.
But today, people would be mortified if you did
that. Yeah, exactly. I know. And then
everyone would like, all the lawyers in the room would rush to her aid.
Oh, totally. I mean,
we're so sorry.
Yeah, so
that
sorry.
Monster.
I know. Exactly. It was almost like but back then, Benny Hill was on reruns and
right.
I mean, it was just. And then I think I still had another 15 minutes to do.
He would do it with a British accent, and that makes it okay.
Exactly. And I was like probably 21 years old, and ooh, like.
Right.
Just, dude, it was just like, yeah. And I remember having still to do another 15 minutes and then just sweating and it was just that was and I totally had forgotten about that gig.
You see what I mean, though? It's funny now. At the time, it was terrible, I'm sure, but now telling it to other people, it's pretty funny.
I actually felt bad taking the money. I mean, of course, I needed the money, but it was like, you know what I mean? When you feel bad, like, I don't deserve this. And the guy knows you don't deserve it, but it's like it is what it is. It's
the deal's the deal. But yeah.
Yeah, that was probably
the one that I had to think about it because I've had some rough gigs out there. But the worst one that happened is at that time in my life, I'd been doing comedy about a year and a half.
Yeah, see, it's all about that time.
Right, yeah. So, and it was like, at that time in my life, let's just say I had 15 minutes shaky.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
really stretched it out, I had about 15 minutes. And at the time, I was pretty close with Duncan Trussell, who was talent coordinator at the Comedy Store at that time. Now, of course, everyone knows Duncan.
Yeah.
But him and his girlfriend at the time, Stephanie Escajeda, were both comics, and they both really dug me. And they, comics a lot of times don't have places to go during the holidays and stuff. They invited me over for Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
which was a big deal. It was really sweet of them to do. And Duncan's dad, may rest in peace now, he's a really wonderful guy, was a Louisiana chef. He was like a really well-renowned chef in Louisiana.
Nice.
And so he was like, I'm coming to make you guys Thanksgiving dinner. It's going to be great, And I've run into this issue before. If you're a big guy, it doesn't matter what people made. They expect you to eat a lot of it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're kind of insulted if you don't. It's much worse than for a normal person. If
Right.
you're really big and you turn down food, they really get hurt, And so knowing that, one of my things is I really cannot eat seafood. I just don't like it. And it's not that I'm allergic. I just think it's gross. I don't like seafood. Yeah. And, it's been that way my entire life.
Have you ever heard that old dumb joke where they go, when I see food, I eat it. I'm on the seafood diet.
Right. That's, but like, my mom loves it. She would take us to Red Lobster all the time and stuff like that. I'm like, I'll have the chicken nuggets or whatever.
Yeah. What was it called? Remember we did that comedy show and they kept arguing with you about the Cheddar Bay Biscuits?
Right. Yeah.
Is that what they're called? Cheddar Bay Biscuits?
Yeah, Cheddar Bay Biscuits. I got to know those really well because that was about all I could eat at Red Lobster for a while. And, and so knowing Louisiana cuisine, I kind of thought just so there's not an issue that night, I was like, if you guys could just let your dad know that I don't eat seafood. I don't want to hurt his feelings when he's bringing stuff out and everything, And of course, Duncan was like, yeah, sure, of course, Well, like an idiot, I get there like a half hour early because I don't want to be late,
Yeah.
And who greets me at the door? Duncan's dad. And he goes, you're the first one here. You're just in time. And he brings out a humongous tray of shrimp. And I'm like, oh, no.
I was just going to ask you, and I know seafood includes shrimp, but do you?
Right. Absolutely. Shrimp might be what got me into the whole thing in the first place of going like, nope, I don't really? Like that.
What about battered shrimp?
They're just disgusting to me. I
agree. If I see naked shrimp, I don't like. I'll still eat it. If I see battered shrimp, I love it.
If any dish that you have to scrape poop out of before you eat it,
ew.
I'm good.
See, I don't usually see it in that form though. I usually just see it like at a, like the food court at the Chinese place.
Yeah, but that's a step in preparing it. Is let's scoop all the poop out of them.
What about fish sticks? Do you eat fish sticks?
No, I don't. And I don't want to start grossing you out about all the fish I don't eat.
What about whale sperm? Are you into whale?
Right, But so now it's like, well, clearly Duncan has not talked to this man because he's looking at me expectantly and he's got this humongous tray of shrimp. And I'm
he's
like,
all proud of it.
He is. He would, and rightfully so. He'd worked really hard. He'd had that shipped in from Louisiana to cook, And I'm like, oh shit!
Dang!
Thank you, sir. And I just grab one and just start digging into it. And he goes, and you'd think he would have noticed this, but he goes, "Yeah, you got to de-shell it first. You got to take it out of the shell," because I was like cracking into it like Aquaman or something, like a mermaid. And he's like, no, here, take this part off and dip it in there. And I'm like, okay. And so we're talking, and I'm like, where's Duncan and Stephanie? Come on, guys, get down here. And they're nowhere to be found. And so have another one. Don't be bashful. He goes, you know, I made plenty. There's plenty for everyone. Oh, I'll have one more. Oh, don't just have one. Come on, have another. So now I've got like 4 that I've choked down.
Yeah.
It's like tears. I'm like fighting tears. It's so like, and you know how when you don't want to eat something, you chew it forever.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
And I hold my breath. I remember holding my breath and kind of like looking away, like just like.
And he's describing it, and it's not helping. He's like, I got these straight from the swamp, and you know.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So well, isn't that wonderful? And then he goes, I don't want you to think that's all I made. And I'm like, oh, thank Christ.
Yes.
Thank you. And he goes into the kitchen. He goes, I'll be right back. And he comes back, and he goes, I also made crab dip. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And he's like, load up a cracker with this. And luckily, it's very buttery.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad to me as the shrimp was. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And so I eat a cracker. He's like, hey, you're just too shy. Have another one. He goes, there'll be plenty for everyone else. You know, now it's been about 20 minutes.
Right.
And I've become a human aquarium. I've got every kind of seafood imaginable. He's feeding me. It's just him basically doing a private show of here's what I found in the ocean. And, you know, and I'm like, oh, great. And so about that time, Stephanie, who doesn't have much of a filter on stage or off, comes down, sees the two of us, but doesn't really look at me or anything like that. And she goes, oh, don't make Mike eat any of that. He hates seafood.
Oh, geez.
I've got a whole mouth full of seafood. And I just look at him and just kind of smile. And he goes, you're just too nice. Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it was really good. You know? And so that made him so happy that I had done that.
Wow.
And then we got like to the actual meal and we were all having fun. And now he, you know, how sometimes an embarrassing thing like that will just win someone over.
Yeah.
It really won him over. And he was like, and he was such a sweetheart of a person already. And he goes, I want you to come out. He goes, I've met a few comics that Duncan has introduced me to. I want you to come out and do this charity celebrity golf tournament with me.
Oh.
And we're going to have stand-ups that night. And it was me and a headliner I won't name from the Comedy Store. And he was like, and we're going to have a local guy too. And I was like, great. That sounds awesome. And he goes, you know, we'll put you up in a really nice hotel by the golf course. You get to golf free. There's going to be like a big hospitality booths at every hole where you get like free liquor. They had like masseuses at every hole and stuff like that. It was
this in California?
No, this was in Mobile, Alabama.
Wow, that's really cool.
So yeah, so they fly me out, and I'm like, this is so great. And the thing is, there it was like a weekend event. So I got to stay there 2 days, and then on Sunday night we would do a show. And nice. So everybody at the event has gotten to know that I'm one of the comics on the show, and they've all been very sweet. And let
me ask you a question on a side note. When you do that, do you like to mingle and all that before the show, or do you prefer if you'd already done a set and then you got to mingle?
I would prefer. I would say this. I learned during this experience that I would prefer to do a set first and then mingle.
Yeah.
You know, and I learned that the hard way from this experience. So we're all having a good time, and you know, everyone's been great. I got to play golf and all that stuff. You know who was there?
Who?
Red West.
No way. Well, thank you very much. Sonny and Red Celebrity Golf Tournament, Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, exactly. I got to meet him.
The two cousins.
Was so nice.
Wow.
And I was like, my mom's a huge fan of all you guys. And he was like, well, tell her I said hello and everything. So already it's gone phenomenally well for me.
I just heard yesterday that Red West, I believe he wrote 11 songs or partnered with someone that and they wrote 11 songs for Elvis, and I think one of them was Suspicious Minds.
Man, that's a great accomplishment just by itself, you know. And I told him that how much I loved him in Roadhouse. Do you remember?
He was in
that. And Patrick Swayze asked him at one point. He goes, "So why do you live here?" He's like, "I fell in love with an ugly woman. Don't ever do that." And he was just so funny in the movie, so naturally funny, you know. And but he was a real sweetheart to meet. The guy who played saxophone in Eddie and the Cruisers was there, so it was like local guys, and so you know, having a great time.
Real quick, Mike, I hate to interrupt. He did not write that song. Red West wrote Separate Ways. That's the one that I was thinking. We've gone our separate ways. That's the one.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't want to, you know, okay, I'm sorry. As you were, I'm so sorry.
In case a record executive
exactly
listens and goes, "What the hell?"
I know. Okay.
But so Sunday night finally rolls around, and now Duncan's dad leads me to a room with the producer of the show, and then he leaves. He's done his part. He's supplied me and everything, you know.
Yeah.
And so I go, "Where's the other headliner from the comedy store?" He goes, "Oh, that guy bailed out last minute. He just decided he didn't want to come."
So he flew. Oh, he didn't even go to Mobile, Alabama.
Didn't even go. Didn't go.
Wow.
I guess he got a bigger gig somewhere or something, and so that guy's not there. So they go, "Let me introduce you to the guy who did the show last year," and he goes, "Yeah, I'm one of the best magicians in the world, and one of the best close-up magic card trick doers in the whole world.
Wow.
So you have a lot to live up to." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's awesome." And he goes, "I'm just playing it. You're gonna have a great time." And okay.
Yeah.
But you know, it was just a little aggressive. You know, it was just a little like, I don't.
And like you're already out of your element. You're like,
right.
I don't see you as a big golfer. I don't see you as an
Alabama. I was like, I didn't come here to steal your job, dude. I don't know how this all panned out, you know.
Yeah.
But so then that guy goes, I'll introduce you to the other comic on the show, and he's considered one of the best comics Mobile, Alabama ever produced. So he's like, you kind of like, you know, you better be respectful.
You better bring your A game, boy.
Yeah, it was that kind of vibe. And he goes, "Killer, come meet the comic from Hollywood." That's exactly how he introduced me to.
Yeah. So now the crowd's already like, boo. No, like.
Right. Well, like, luckily this is all in the green room that this is happening. And I meet Killer Bees.
Oh, dude, Killer Bees. He is a huge Southern
you
star.
Bet your ass he is. He is one of the, I would say he's, in entertainment, he's probably Mobile's favorite son.
He would be like, I guess it would almost be like doing a private event in L.A. and George Lopez is like the local comedian, and it's like
right,
and in an all Latino audience, like the crowd is gonna eat it up and
exactly.
love it.
Like they're gonna have the time of their life. They're, you know, and most of them don't know that he's gonna be there and everything. And at the time, he was doing like local car dealership ads and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
Even if people didn't know him from stand-up, they knew him.
Yeah.
And thought he was funny, you know. So I meet him and he goes, "Well, they speak very highly of you. This is great." He goes, "I'm sorry, I'm in a bit of a mood. One of the waiters spilled a little spaghetti sauce on this $5,000 suit that I have on." And I'm like,
whoa.
"Oh, okay, that's awesome." You know, and I remember seeing him on like young comedian specials and stuff like that. Like I knew his television act, like before I met him. You know, I was like, I know every joke in this dude's act. This is great to get to meet him. The producer is the last person I meet. And he's a nice guy, well-meaning. He works with a lot of different celebrities, so he's catered to a lot of celebrities before and stuff like that. He comes backstage and goes, I'm so sorry I'm late. The governor's here tonight.
What? The governor? Oh my!
Yeah,
this is a big deal, dude. This is a huge gig. This is huge.
There's like a bunch of people are here. He goes, I only really need you guys to do an hour. Killer, you've done the show before. You know how it works. So why don't you go up and do 15? And Mike, since you came all the way from Hollywood, you do 45.
Oh, man.
That'll be great. And I'm so stunned by this suggestion that my jaw kind of drops.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's also, I don't know for sure, but it's probably the craziest thing Killer has ever heard.
Yeah.
And we both are just like stunned silent. And he goes, all right, have a great show, everybody. And he leaves.
And
and now it's just me, Killer, and the aggressive magician.
Oh yeah, because if the magician wasn't there and it was just me and Killer, I'd be like, dude, I'm really nervous. You're like the guy, and I don't want to. I'd rather just do 15 and have you close, man. But since the magician's there, then it gets all weird. You don't want to verbalize it because the magician will be like, "Ha, look at him, he's shaking in his boots, woohoo!"
Yeah, and it's like, and I don't know, if it's my place. I don't know the etiquette. I'm like, how do I say this without sounding snobby or like, I was like, I just don't know what to do in this situation.
Yeah.
And so Killer goes, well, it's going to be a great night for you. A 22-year veteran of comedy is going to open for you. And he pats me on the shoulder.
That's kind of cool. He's basically saying like, have fun, buddy.
Yeah. But he was also pissed.
Exactly. He
wasn't pissed
aggressive.
At me.
Yeah.
But he was pissed. Yeah. And he wasn't trying to punish me by doing this. But he wanted to kind of teach them a lesson.
Yeah, as Brody Stevens would say, you don't do that.
Right, it's not done. And so Killer goes out onto the stage and proceeds to do 15 minutes of local comedy.
Oh man!
Individually talking, like doing crowd work, but like private moments with each member of the audience.
Oh wow.
And it destroys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it may be the best set he's ever done in his life. I don't know for sure.
Oh, geez.
But he was on a mission to destroy, and he accomplished that mission.
Yeah.
As a comedy lover, it was awesome. As the guy following him, it was a nightmare.
Oh my
gosh. And then he goes, this guy didn't really get his intro, but he works at one of the clubs I played in LA, the Comedy Store. It's one of my favorite clubs. Give a hand to Mike Black. So he was totally nice to me. But I go up and just die for 45 minutes. Just pure bombing. And like I said, at that time I had 15 and I'm stretching it out as much as I can,
Yeah.
And then I start doing crowd. I think I talked to the governor, but I blocked out whatever exchange we had. I might not. There might be a bounty on me in Mobile, Alabama now, It was awful. And so the only saving grace of the entire thing, this is all couples in their 40s that I'm playing to.
And at that point, you're probably in your 30s or maybe 20s.
20s, early 20s. The only saving grace of the whole thing was the kid running the spotlight and the kid running the sound. Both came up to me individually later, and they were like, screw those old people. I thought you were really funny,
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, that's great. But then we had to have like an after party that we had to go to.
Oh no.
And everyone, and it's Southern hospitality, so everyone's like getting these little burns in and then going, bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. You really tried your best. Bless your heart. That sort of thing. And so that was by far the roughest. I told Duncan about it and he laughed his ass off. He thought it was the best thing ever that happened, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
man,
You're
it is
following
so
your dream. Bless your heart.
yeah.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh.
so that's my worst gig ever
Dude,
for
that's
sure.
that's insane. Great story, man. That was just like, wow. That's I thought, yeah, and for my grand finale, you know what? I'm
Yeah,
gonna eat some seafood. You know, you didn't want it, but I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, they invited me to a thing called the Mullet Toss, uh, which was a big thing they did out there. I guess it was who could throw a mullet the farthest, and I was like, I'll decline. Thank you.
What's a mullet? I only know the hairstyle.
I think it's a type of fish, like a type of
Oh,
catfish,
geez. Oh, yeah.
and then you throw it as far as you can, and then everybody eats them.
Yeah.
Like after that, and I was like, it sounds wonderful, but I'm not going to go to that.
I got two more questions on this seafood thing. Then we'll move on. Do you eat tuna at all, or no tuna?
I can get through like a tuna sandwich, and it won't kill me or anything.
Like that's probably and what about McDonald's fish fillet? Can you do that?
Never,
Really?
never in a million years.
Wow.
It's a thing I hate, but the most processed version of it. And it's
wow.
No, I don't want that.
I was thinking, see, if I was a betting man, I would have said he probably would eat that because it's a lot of bun and it's cheese and it's a lot of tartar sauce.
I would basically take the fillet out and just eat the bun and the cheese and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not a food I like. I just don't respond. It's like some people hate licorice.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have foods that you don't like.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I always think no, I don't, because I pretty much will. I'm like, I think I eat anything, but you're right. When it comes to yeah, I tried some shrimp up in the Bay Area. I went to this I don't know, was it a Mongolian grill? It might have been a Mongolian grill. And for some dumb reason, I thought it would be even, I don't know, I grabbed the shrimp and it had like the legs on it still and the eyeballs. And once I saw it on my plate, I was like, this is fucking gross. And I threw it away. I couldn't. And my friend was like, oh, the eyeballs are the best part. And I'm like, I know. No. And then one time I was in Houston and this guy was like, I think they call them crawdaddies or crawfish or something.
Yep. Yeah, crawdads.
He's like, you want to go eat some bugs? He called them bugs. And once he said that, that's what that whole image in my mind was gross. Like I couldn't.
Yeah, most shellfish are like the cockroaches of the sea.
Yeah, I was just like, once you think that, and even lobsters, I don't like that the way they look, and then or when people do like those crabs and they put them in those buckets and they have those walnut cracker things and they crack it. I'm like, the whole sound is gross. It just freaks me out.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah, what you have to re-kill it to eat it, basically. And my mom loves a dish that's like a Mexican style of preparing a fish, where they cook the whole thing and the fish face is just looking at you.
That's hilarious. It's just looking. And it's like, come on, Mike, let's do this.
My mom, I love her to death, but she knows she does this. She will. I have a very visual mind. A lot of people think in text, but I think in images. And that is great for a creative person, but bad for someone who's easily grossed out. And so my mom has this weird thing where she will slave over a stove for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And make this amazing meal. Just fantastic food. And then as soon as you dig in to eat it, she will tell you about someone she knows surgery.
Oh no.
Yeah,
you're like,
she doesn't,
can we not talk?
Yeah, she's just trying to make conversation, but she'll just tell you the grossest story that you could possibly tell someone while they're eating.
You need to have some of those giant oversized headphones on.
Yeah, like the cone of silence from Maxwell Smart,
Exactly. Or when people go to like a shooting range or something, you're just like, and you have some.
Well, now, and to be fair, she doesn't do it on purpose. It just kind of happens, and now we're like, I've known her long enough that I can just tell her.
How long have you known your mom?
my whole life.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
And,
Yeah.
but like when I was a kid, I couldn't really express what was happening,
Yeah.
but like now that I'm an adult, I'll just go, Mom, I'm eating, and she'll,
Exactly.
she'll realize what she's doing,
By the way,
and, go ahead.
Oh, that's all. Anything else on that topic?
My brother
Yeah.
was kind of the opposite of my mom. He would do stuff like that intentionally.
Oh.
He just thought it was hilarious to like talk about, today I was outside and I found a whole bunch of worms and stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
That's
hilarious.
But my other brother, Randy, who they're much closer in age, because I'm about 10 years behind them. But my other brother, Randy, as a side effect of that, I think, every meal he ever had was with that brother who was actively trying to gross people out. My other brother now can eat just about anything. And will, unless it's nailed down or on fire, he'll eat it.
That's funny. Yeah.
I saw him one day when we were all still living together. We were pretty much out of stuff because my mom hadn't gone to the grocery store, and all we had left was Cool Ranch Doritos and a lime. And my brother took the Cool Ranch Doritos and covered them in lime juice and then ate them.
Wow. I could see that being good, actually.
I was like, wow, that's hardcore. And he was like, you want one? I was like, I'll try it. And I tried one, and I was like, it tastes like what I would imagine if hate had a flavor. That would be it.
I think they make that now, right? Don't they kind of have like lime-flavored tortilla chips?
They make like hint of lime tortilla chips and stuff like that, but it did not mix well with the Cool Ranch flavoring that they had on there. It kind of curdled.
I went to a community college, and my day job back then was I worked at the snack shack on campus, and it was really cool. I remember they would that was the first time I discovered Cool Ranch. Got loud. Cool Ranch Doritos.
Yeah, my neighbors have decided to do construction in the area where I'm recording, of course.
I know. Man, I don't really eat Doritos anymore, but at that time in college, I was like, these are the best. Cool Ranch Doritos, it was so good.
Yeah.
All right, I got a joke for you, and we're gonna wind it up and wrap it up. But I was reading this old joke book from the '80s, and for some reason, this kind of made me chuckle a little bit. And I think your mom may or may not get a kick out of it. It involves Elvis. Okay, here we go. So this priest gets off. This priest, he flies to New York City. He wants to go to St. John's Cathedral, and he's gonna do a sermon. And when he lands at JFK, there's a limo driver, and he has a sign, but it says Elvis. And he's like, and the guy's like, I'm not Elvis. And the guy's like, no, Mr. Elvis, Mr. Presley, come with me. Puts him in the car, drives him to the Waldorf Astoria, goes to check in. They're like, Mr. Presley, we have your key for you. And he's like, but I'm not Elvis. They're like, Elvis, we know it's you. He's like, but I'm not Elvis. He goes to his hotel room, and there's 10 beautiful women in bikinis waiting for him. And he says, and then you're like, Elvis, Elvis. And he goes, well, there's a 1 for the money, 2 for the show. It's so stupid.
Can I tell a joke?
Yes, and you could probably tell it better because I didn't really tell it that good, but yes, please.
No, I thought you told it really good.
Oh, good. Okay.
But hang on just a second. Let me take a sip of.
You're like, let me stop this construction.
No, I just moved to a different room, but I'm not going to fight with my neighbors when they have a hammer. That's just a general rule.
I know.
But this joke's a little dirty, but it's not too terrible.
No, it's cool. Yeah.
But a young priest in a small town is finally going to be able to do the Sunday service. And that's a big deal when it's, your first time doing something like that, and he was all excited about it. And the older priest tells him, he goes, you're going to do great. Everyone already loves you. They're already rooting for you, everyone in the community. And we're all just so happy to see you getting better at this and following your calling and, getting the word out there. He goes, but I'm just going to tell you ahead of time. Even at my old age, I get a little nervous every now and again. And it's hard when you have that whole congregation there, and it can really throw you, your nerves can really mess with you if you're not careful. So just so you know, I have a little flask of whiskey back there behind the podium. Turn around, and say, aren't we lucky to be in this lovely church? And then take a little sip of the whiskey, and that'll kind of calm your nerves, and you'll be fine. And so he goes up, he starts doing his sermon, and it's, he doesn't know if he's really engaging everyone or not, and they're all just kind of staring at him. So take a look at this lovely church that we have, and he takes a sip, and the sermon goes on, and he's just not getting them quite where he wants them. So it turns around again, takes another little sip, and then another. Finally, people are really starting to take interest, and they're kind of leaning forward in their seats. And he goes, "This is going great. I think this whiskey is really helping." So he turns around a couple more times, And the last time he turns around, he realizes, I've finished off the bottle. But that's okay. Everyone's having a great time, and people are applauding. They're laughing. They're looking at each other like the community is fully engaged. And, as they leave, he sees them just shaking their head in disbelief that they've seen something like this. They're just amazed and clearly full of the Holy Spirit. And so they all start filing out, and the old priest comes over, and he goes, "Well, how do you feel about that?" And he goes, "Great. Thank you so much for telling me about that. That made a big difference." He goes, how do you think it went?" He goes, "I thought you were very engaging. I do have a few notes." "Oh, well, I'd love to hear them." "Well, first of all, the whale swallowed Jonah, not the other way around. Second of all, Samson slayed the Philistines with the jawbone of an ass. He did not, as you colorfully put it, beat the living shit out of them." And lastly, in the church announcements for next week, in the events calendar, there's going to be a taffy pulling at Miss Peter's house, not a Peter pulling at Miss Taffy's house. So that's one of my favorite jokes. It has to do with, please telling
hilarious.
Stories.
I love that. All right, since in this world we you can't really do this joke. The three guys walk into it, so we'll just make it about ourselves. Yeah. So there's these two. I'm from Fresno, so I'll make fun of Fresno. There's these two idiots from Fresno, and they're about to have a business meeting. And the one businessman, he's waiting for the other idiot, and it takes him 2 hours. He's 2 hours late, and right when he gets there, he's like, "Dude, it took you 2 hours to get here. What took so long?" And the other guy goes, "Well, I was at the hotel, and the escalator was broke, so I stood there for 2 hours while they fixed it." And he goes, "You idiot! You stood there for 2 hours. You should have just sat."
That reminds me of the old Buddy Hackett joke.
Yeah.
We'll say for this we'll modify it by two local football teams, a team from Hollywood and a team from the Valley, are gonna play football, and at the halftime bell, the team from Hollywood is so stupid that they think the game's over. They get back on the bus and go home. 2 plays later, the team from the Valley scores a touchdown.
That's hilarious. Yeah. That's funny.
So now I'll be hated in Mobile and in Hollywood and in the Valley.
Exactly. These guys and Fresno.
Right, and Fresno. Yeah.
I know.
I didn't even have anything to do with it. It doesn't matter.
I know, exactly. Mike, listen, man, I got a meeting to take in about 20 minutes, so I don't want to be late. And I want to thank you.
Talk about Mr. Hollywood.
That's right. I want to thank you so much for taking a small part of your day and doing this. And if we have time, let's maybe do another podcast this week. And,
yeah, that sounds good to me.
They're always fun, and you're always a gem to have on the Pocket Party podcast, and people love you. And shout out to your mom and everybody else who listens and comments and lets us know that we're doing something to make their week go by a little bit better. That really means a lot.
Yeah, I love hearing you guys' comments and stuff like that, especially on the episodes that I'm on. I don't really care about the other ones, but I love to hear your comments and engage with everybody, and it's always a pleasure doing this show.
I was listening to Joe Rogan on the drive down here from the farm, and they were saying that now, I mean, this is recent because like not that long ago, there was 3 million podcasts. They said now there's 4 million podcasts. So the fact that you guys are listening to this one, that means a lot to me. So thanks for keeping me in the rotation. Right?
It's kind of like the airline thing. We know you have a lot of choices of podcasts to listen to.
Yeah, the airline compared to podcasting, the airline's full of crap because there's like 3 choices or whatever, 4 choices.
Right.
Like, we know you have a lot of choices: Delta, America, United, Southwest. But imagine, I mean, dude, 4 million podcasts. This is like, yeah.
It's amazing. I'm sure one of them is just a guy counting podcasts.
Probably. I mean, they said that, because Brian Redband was saying that he was watching the movies, and in the pre-show of the movies, the previews, there were I don't know if it was Kinkos or some company that was like, and by the way, check out our podcast. And he's thinking, who the hell's listening to a Kinkos podcast about where their locations are? It's like, so it's like, yeah. So anyways, thank you so much.
It'd be funny if you just turned off half your listeners. They're like, hey, I listen to the Kinkos podcast.
Hey, there's a Kinkos podcast? I need to get in there.
They're like, I could be listening to that instead of this.
I know, exactly. Them and their old priest jokes and jokes about Fresno and Hollywood.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever happened to Killer Bees? I wonder if he has a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he does, and it's probably amazing.
Probably amazing. I know. That guy. I listened to him on a podcast, and I will say this, and he basically was talking about a book that changed his life called The Purpose-Driven Life. And he said that he used to think he wanted to make it in show business, and then he had guilty feelings about that because he's like, well, I'm being selfish for that. And then I realized, no, if I make it in show business, if I become really popular, then I can help others. Think about that, Mike. If you become a huge comedian, then you can have a wing named after you at a hospital, or you'll have that name recognition to sell those tickets to, like I'm listening to this book about, of course I'm into Elvis, but I'm listening to this book right now about Frank Sinatra and the charities that you can donate to and help, and your name draws that drawing power, man. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And
so it may start out, it's weird, right? I know we got to go, but as a comedian, we start out for different reasons. We make our friends laugh, and then we make people outside of our circle laugh, and then eventually you make the world laugh. And maybe in the beginning you do it for the pat on the back, or maybe to meet ladies after the show. But then as life goes on, you get older. Sometimes, obviously, for most people, it grows way beyond that. So it's like, what can we do with our art and reach people, and also not to.
I'd be happy if that meeting ladies after the show thing ever panned out.
You're still at that. You're like, I'm still at that level, D. No.
Yeah, I'm still. I hear all these mythical tales of that sort of thing, and I'm like, I have never had that experience.
Well, I think it was a little. Well, back in my day, there'd be a payphone. Remember at the Comedy Store, as you walk through and you go down the steps, there was a payphone there by the bathroom. So I remember I used to hang around the payphone and. And that kind of thing. But yeah, now
and wait for ladies to call. Is that what it is?
No? They'd walk by I don't know.
Okay.
It was just like a place to hang out by a payphone. No, that's when you're getting older. When you're like your go-to spot was the payphone.
I was imagining this lonely lady hotline that they would call and just, whatever random comic at the comedy store.
Because there was a payphone, and there was still, I don't know if it's still there, but there was yeah.
You would think Argus Hamilton would just be waiting by that phone on, hey, who's this?
Yeah. I'm a Presbyterian from whatever, Episcopalian or something, I think he says.
I can meet you in the Inland Empire.
Dude, here's how long I've been doing comedy in LA. There was a payphone at the bottom of the stairs at the Comedy Store. There was one at the Ice House in the lobby. Can you picture that payphone? I think it's still there. And then there was a payphone in the lobby of the Laugh Factory. It's gone now, and then at the Improv, there was a payphone right outside the front as you exit the club, and it'd be to the left on the sidewalk there.
Yeah. It was a whole other time. It was
other time, man.
And they would have those big phone books that dangled from them in the plastic cases.
Oh, yeah, dude. I remember the first road trip I did. My friend goes, you know, because you had to put yourself up at a hotel. And he goes, but if you go to it was in Ventura, California. He goes, as soon as you get to town, find a phone book. And in the back, there's going to be a 50% off hotel rooms for the La Quinta Inn. And so I remember doing what he said. And I got those discounts. And I went to the La Quinta Inn and I stayed there for 3 nights.
That saved you a fortune.
It did. Yeah, especially when back then I think I was making $350 for the weekend.
I'd keep that ad and the bail ad. Here's the local bail bond.
Yeah. I know. That's awesome. All right, Mike, you're the best, man. Thank you again.
You too, brother. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart, man, for listening to the Pocket Party podcast. And anytime you guys leave comments, of course, it helps the algorithm. And I think there's a thanks button on YouTube. If you want to click that thanks button, you can do that and throw us a little something. And or if you want to do Venmo, it's at Darren Carter Comic on Venmo. I'm also on the Cash App, $ Darren Carter Comic on the Cash App. And if you do PayPal, DarrenCarter.com. on PayPal. It means a lot, and I appreciate every single any donation helps. Anything helps. It keeps it going. And I'm also available on CAMEO. I do birthday shout-outs, anniversary shout-outs, back-to-school shout-outs, things like that. Go to CAMEO and find me on there, Darren Carter on CAMEO. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. We love you. Don't hurt nobody. Be careful. And count your blessings and write down 3 things that make you happy, and I guarantee it works. All right. Love you. Bye.
Pocket Party. Yeah. When I'm down and feeling low with so much negativity, I listen to Darren Carter's Pocket Party. He got his friends as guests and they be really funny. It ain't over till he say, boy, don't hurt nobody. Yeah. They run.